In this video, we'll be talking about sourcing from China. More precisely, we'll talk what has changed in the last year or two, because China is playing differently now in terms of sourcing products and logistics. And our guest today in this session will be Kian Golzari. He helps big brands to source products, and he sourced more than 2,500 products in his career. And before we move on with the content, I wanted to mention that this session is part of the Seller Fest Online Virtual Summit, which is sponsored by 3 companies. The first one is Carbon 6. It's a suite of tools that makes it simple to optimize and streamline every aspect of your Amazon business. So no matter if you're a beginner or advanced seller, check out tools which Carbon 6 provides for sellers. The next sponsor is Getida. They help with Amazon FBA auditing and reimbursements. So Amazon owns Amazon sellers some money, and Getida helps to claim this money back. And last but not least, QUARTILE is also the part of this event. And this is an artificial intelligence-powered advertising optimization platform that helps sellers and brand owners maximize their potential in e-commerce. And check the link below for QUARTILE, Getida, and Carbon 6. You'll find their links so you can check in more details. And during this session, if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe and click all the buttons possible below this video. And this session I'm hosting together with Lisette Lees. She works with different Amazon brands. Hello, Lisette.
Hi, Augustas. I'm really happy to be here today and also introduce our next guest, who will be Kian Golzari, and he will talk about some of the recent changes that are related to sourcing from China. So hi, Kian.
Hey guys, how's it going? Pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for having me, and looking forward to jumping in.
Good, very good. So before we go into the details about sourcing from China, could you first introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Kian Golzari. I've been living and working in China for the last 12 years. And in that time, I've manufactured, designed, developed, sourced over 2,500 products, visited more than 500 factories, and attended more than 20 Canton fairs. That's 20 real Canton fairs and 3 virtual Canton fairs. And then that's led me to work with loads of different brands, retailers, licenses, such as the NBA, the Olympics, United Nations, Ministry of Defense, lots of big box retailers in UK, Europe, and the US, and in the last few years, helping Amazon private label sellers as well.
Okay, sounds really good. So we have a short presentation prepared, or you have prepared a short presentation as well. And after that, you are more than ready to answer all of the questions our viewers have about sourcing from China. So let's first see your presentation and then dive into the questions.
For sure. And it is a very short presentation, because the thing with today was that there's been so many changes in China, which I'm going to cover briefly in this quick slide. But rather than just presenting to be like, okay, here's all the changes that's happened in China, I would rather open it up to the floor to be like, all right, well, what challenges have you guys faced in your business specifically? And then let me solve them and let's answer them live on this call. So some of the changes you guys might have noticed, first of all, would be to do with the rising raw material costs. You know, whether you're purchasing polyester, steel, aluminium, nylon, wood, whatever fabric it may be, there's, in the last sort of year and a half, there's been a massive surplus in demand for materials. And then as a result, because of lockdowns and things like that, there's then been a shortage of materials, which has then caused the price to spike as well. So we've seen increase in costs, but we've also seen a shortage in the materials as well. So that would be the following point. We've had material shortages, and then after that as well, we've also had rising labor costs. And this has been super interesting, because I've been speaking to many different factories about this. And, you know, as a result of, you know, local lockdowns and stuff like that in China, there's been a mass demand for, you know, delivery drivers, you know, to have your food delivered and products delivered and stuff like that. So now, because there's such a demand for that, less people want to work in the factory, and they're saying, why should I work so hard, you know, so many hours in a day with intensive work in a factory when I can be a delivery driver and make equal or more pay? So now a lot of factory bosses are telling me it's hard to attract workers to come into the factory and we have to pay them a lot more. So that's caused a few challenges as well. But hey, when we pay workers more, it means our cost of goods go up as well. And then now the factories are thinking, well, do we move to other countries? Do we now like employ the local workforce, a cheaper workforce from other countries like Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka? So those are options which are playing out at the moment as well. Next point, we have longer lead times as a result of all these issues as well, increased demand. And here's the issue with that, right? It's okay if our lead time used to be like, 2 months, but now it's, 3 months, as long as the supplier lets us know that. But where we've had challenges is a lack of communication, or a supplier will let you know that your goods are delayed or late right before they were supposed to ship it. But if you knew it a little bit further in advance, you could have planned some things around it. But because of lack of communication, those longer lead times have been really challenging for us as well. So we have a few more points as well, which is sourcing from other countries. This has been a really hot topic as well. A lot of people, as a result of the challenges which we've had in China, have now looked at, okay, can I source these from USA? Can I source these from Mexico? Can I source these from Turkey, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar? And it's a very, very important exercise to go and see where else can you source your products from. But it's most important to know what are the capabilities of that country that you're sourcing from. So for example, if you're just doing an electronic product, which you were making in like Shenzhen in the south of China, which is really the area which specializes in that product, and you're like, well, now I want my products made in India or Turkey or USA. Well, if those countries don't specialize in electronic products, you're going to have either very expensive products or very bad products. So it's important to understand what is the country which specializes in the raw material of that product before you go and source it from there. But then also bear in mind that like US manufacturers and Latin American manufacturers have also become very busy as well in the last year as a result of so many people asking for products from there. So you might be able to get your product from that country, but they might not be able to deliver it for you for another 6 months. So your lead times from other countries is very important. The other really good thing about Alibaba and sourcing from China is that we have what's called like verification. So you can see the factory name, information, number of years they've been in business, who else they've supplied, how many machines they've got in their factory, how many workers they've got in their factory, and that's all been verified by a third party. Same way that when you make a payment to them, your payment is protected through trade assurance. But now if you find a factory in Mexico, that information is no longer verified so long as you send, some people into the factory to validate it for yourself. And when it comes to paying a, $10,000 deposit to start the production of your goods, you're kind of sending $10,000 to someone that you don't know, whereas we had that payment protection. So there are principles that we must apply if we want to source from other countries. And it's definitely a good exercise for you to go and find out if you can purchase these products from other countries, but first understand like what's the raw material that they specialize in. Can they manufacture it in the lead times that we require? Can they manufacture it to the capacity that we require? Because don't forget, like if you're ordering 10,000 units a month from China, the capacity of your factory in Turkey or Mexico might only be like 1,000 units per month. So there's a lot of moving parts that you have to basically strategize and confirm before deciding to move to another country. On top of that as well, we've had increase in shipping costs, and I'm sure everyone has felt this, no matter what business they're in, whether it be sea freight or air freight or goods stuck at the port or anything like that. That's been a massive challenge. So we can talk about that today as well, if anyone's got any questions around that. And then March 2021, we had a lot of factories closing down because of power outages and pollution and stuff like that. And then we also had some factories just closing down because it was because of like local lockdowns and stuff like that. It was too challenging to run a factory during lockdown and COVID. So they just decided to close their factories. So as a result of less factories making the same products, it then increases their orders, and then their lead times get slower. So there's some things around that as well that you might face some challenges. But finally, next point is just remember that all the same principles still apply when sourcing from China, whether it be like, how we get the MOQ, how we get the best price, how we work with the top factories, how we go through our sample process, all of these things. If you want to, when I looked at sourcing a few years ago in the Amazon industry, I kind of looked at it as like, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, depending on what type of seller you were, how your sourcing practices had to be. But now there's no longer beginner, intermediate, and advanced. It's just there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And it doesn't matter if you're a seller doing $15 million a year or if you're a beginner doing your first order for 300 units. You have to have the right principles. And if you do not have the right principles, you will not succeed. in your supply chain and in your sourcing. So yes, these have all been challenges in the last year and a half, but these challenges are also opportunities as well, because it means that if I can fix these issues, if I can get over these problems, if I can correct them before my competitors do, then I'm in a better situation, because all these issues that we've just talked about also affect your competition. So don't think, why me? Why is this happening to me? Oh, it's not you, it's happening to everyone. So the key is, let's now fix it and move forward, and it will be in the best position suited to our competitors. So that was my quick little introduction about what's happened in the last year and a half. Now we can open it up to some Q&A. For anyone who has any questions, feel free to shout out, write them in the chat, or Lizette, possibly you want to ask them as well, and then we can take it from here.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for this initial overview of what has been going on in China, because I think still a lot of Amazon sellers are first looking to China as a sourcing country. So yeah, as Kian mentioned, he will answer to all of your questions, and we do have some questions already here. So the first question for you would be, is China still the cheapest option to source products for Amazon?
I mean, it purely depends on the product that you're in and the category that you're in. But from my research, yes, China will most likely be the cheapest. But nowadays, it's not also being about the cheapest. It's about adding the most value, having the most innovation in your products, getting your products delivered on time. And like I mentioned before, I think it's a good exercise to look at other countries and see what your options are. And if you do find a slightly cheaper price other than China, the most important thing is to compare those samples. So I would still get your quote and your price from China. So let's say, for example, the product is like an iPhone case, and you're getting, $2 from China, but $1.50 from like Turkey. Well, I would still get the sample from China, get the sample from Turkey, and say, right, well, I've got a 50-cent cost saving from Turkey. Is the quality the same, or is it wildly inferior? And so I wouldn't just make a decision based on price. The most important thing is the price of the product, the quality of the product, the reliability of the supplier, the communication of the supplier, and then also, like, how many years has that supplier been in business and who else have they worked with? And that's a really good thing about Alibaba as well, is it'll tell you how many years that factory has been in operation and how many years they've been online on Alibaba. And if they've supplied, like, the North American market, say you want to supply in America, then they already have a lot of experience in that market in terms of what are the certificates that are required. They understand if they've had any returns, what are the quality issues. So that's really important for you to sort of compare other countries. But price is very, very important, but always check the sample before making a decision of which country or supplier you decide to work with.
Okay, very good. So you already mentioned Alibaba and also the suppliers. So the next question for you would be, how do you filter suppliers on Alibaba to pick out the best ones? I know you do have some strategies about it, so I think viewers would be excited to hear about those.
Sure, yeah. So this is a really interesting point. And Alibaba.com actually has, on the website, on the homepage, has actually just gone through a little change in the last couple of weeks where they've actually updated it. But what I would say is the main principles. First of all, when you go on Alibaba.com, you have the option to type in the search the product that you're looking for, but you have the option to search by products or search by manufacturers. The most important thing is to search by manufacturers, not by products, because if you type in a product, let's just say this one, like blue light blocking glasses, you will find products on Alibaba for $1.50, $2.20, $7.90, $12.50, and you're like, they all look the same. Like, why are they so different in price? Well, the purpose of Alibaba is not to find the cheapest price. The terrible suppliers will put a really low price in there to attract you to work with them, and then you'll find out about all the quality issues later on. So the first thing is search by suppliers, search by manufacturers, not by price, and then hit search. Then you want to select verified suppliers, meaning that the information that they provide has been verified by a third party. So the number of workers they have, the number of years they've been in operation, the Canton fairs that they've attended, the number of quality control machines they have in their factory, the images of their factory, a third party has gone in and verified that that information is correct. So you know what you're seeing online is true. But if you unclick verified, you're just trusting that the information that they provide is true. And in today's game, like, that's far too risky. So you want to be searching by verified suppliers. After that, you want to select trade assurance, meaning your payment is protected. So if you say you want these blue light blocking glasses with a yellow lens and a black frame, And if they arrive with a blue frame, trade assurance will refund you because that's not what you actually ordered. So your payments are protected as well. The next thing on the left side of the page on Alibaba, you can select like certifications when you're searching by suppliers. And when you search by certifications, you can select quality standards like ISO 9001, which is a quality standard, 14001, which is environmental standard, BSCI, which is a business social compliance initiative. And I think you can hover your mouse over these things to know what they are, or just Google them. And any factories which have these quality certifications are top factories, meaning that they've worked, they've supplied big brands or big retailers, which is why they have these like levels of certifications. So that gives me a lot more confidence working with a factory which has like really good compliance and audits and certifications done on their factory. Then you've kind of like narrowed it down from there. All right, these are pretty good suppliers. Then I want to be looking at how many years they've been in business. So I don't necessarily want to be working for a factory which has just been established in 2020, because I'm like, well, what were you doing for the last like 15 years? I would rather be working for a factory which has been established since 1997 or 2005, like at least like 5 years experience. I need them to be established as a factory. Otherwise, like they don't have enough like history in the game for me personally. And then after that as well, I want to just double check, what are your core products? So when I'm looking at these blue light blocking glasses, when I hit products on their company, I want to be seeing that they do reading glasses, kids glasses, ski goggles, everything to do with glasses. But if I see iPhone charger, fidget spinner, winter gloves, I'm not interested in that factory, because they're just doing hot products and they're not a specialist in what they do. So those are just some quick tips. And then actually for those who are VIP, I've attached a PDF and you're going to get a download of my step-by-step method of kind of what I just covered, with screenshots of all of that as well. So make sure you sign up for VIP.
Yeah, actually, good point. So let's chat a little bit about the VIP package. So every speaker participating in the virtual summit Seller Fest Online provided us additional content, and you can get information if you go to the link Sellerfest Online /VIP. I think I can activate it here as well. Yeah, okay, it's there. And you also will find the link below in the description. And Kian provides a couple of so here you will see all the sessions in the membership area, and Kian has 5 documents which you can download, and he has an explanation for each of those, so you can get on purpose. The quality of the video is much better on purpose. I made it like less quality for this demonstration so that you don't copy the content. And yeah, so feel free to check the VP package. And now I see we have one question from the audience. Let's take it. So Nekati is asking, what about sourcing from Turkey? Can you help with that?
Yeah, Turkey is a great place to source products from as well. But kind of what I was mentioning before is that you want to make sure that you're sourcing from Turkey because they specialize in a particular type of product. And the way we know what product is a certain country specialized in is what access to raw materials do they have. So Turkey is probably quite good for handcraft products, for woven products, for t-shirts, for cotton, for things like that. But then if you're looking for like a blanket or a carpet or a rug, you know, Turkey will be very good. But if you're looking for like an electronic product or something really highly technical, then maybe Turkey is not the best place. So what I would do is on Alibaba, you can search for the product that you're looking for. And then on the left side of the page, you can also select the countries to search for. So you can just select Turkey and type in that product and see how many manufacturers come up with that. And then I would also ask the manufacturer, once you start talking with them, like whatever the product may be, let's say it's like a wooden cabinet side drawer for your bed, I would say like, what is the area that you're sourcing your wood from? And I want to know, is that wood coming from Turkey or are you importing that from another country? Because if they're importing any components of that product from, let's say, China, for example, then you might as well just source it from China. So, for example, I've been talking with a lot of factory bosses in China recently, and they're setting up factories in other countries. Like the Chinese companies are paying for setting up factories in Myanmar and Bangladesh, where they have like lower cost labor, but they're going to be Chinese run. And like if you're doing like a backpack, for example, Your zips and your buckles and your fabrics are going to come from China, but they might be manufactured in Turkey or Pakistan or Bangladesh. So if those components or those accessories of the product are coming from China anyway, you still face all the challenges which China faces, even though you're buying from another country. So whenever you look at Turkey or any other country, always ask the manufacturer, are all these components sourced in Turkey, or are you importing these from any other countries? And that should be what you use to base your decision, whether you work with that particular country or factory.
All right, let's take a few other questions. So, have product manufacturing costs increased for all categories, or are only some specific categories affected in the last months?
Yeah, that's a great point. To be honest, it's been most categories, because every sector of manufacturing has been affected, and it's come from like the labor cost, right? So the categories which won't be affected as much are the ones which are less labor intensive, meaning more machines make that product. So maybe like a light bulb or something. There's not a human crafting a light bulb with their hands. It's more likely to be made by a machine. So that is less likely to have inflicted higher labor costs. So the thing that I would like to do though as well is that manufacturers increase their price based on how new of a customer you are and how serious of a customer they think you will be. So if you come in with your first order to be like, hey, I want to order the MOQ 300 units, like they're going to give you a very high price, because they're not necessarily interested in acquiring you as a new customer, because they're already very busy and you're giving them a very small order. But there's ways around that. So what I like to do is, if I'm just going to do a new item and a new order and I want to trial this manufacturer first, but I still want their best price, I would say things like, hey, normally we order 1,500 units, but for any new manufacturer that we work with, we always place a trial order. And the trial order is to make sure that you deliver on time, that you pass the pre-shipment inspections, that the goods pass the drop test, that your goods clear through customs clearance okay, that we don't get many returns after we order that product. And then once we pass that trial order, we'll come back and immediately place a much larger order. And that's not even a negotiation tactic. That's true. Like if I needed 10,000 units of something and I'm working with a new factory, I'm not giving them 10,000 units on the first order, because if something were to go wrong, it's a massive investment. So I would always do a trial order first of 500 pieces or 1,000 pieces or something like that. But rather than just saying, hey, I want 500 pieces, what's your best price? I would explain that what's your leverage in terms of like, okay, if this is your absolute first order and you've never ordered from China before, let's say it's a yoga mat, I would say something like, hey, I'm a yoga instructor. I've got my own studio. I know all the biggest yoga influencers in the space. We're planning this massive campaign. So get them excited a little bit. But if you're just like, hey, I want 300 yoga mats, they're not going to be that interested. And you kind of go to the bottom of the pile of all the questions and inquiries that they get. So to answer your question, yes, manufacturing costs have increased across the board, but that shouldn't affect you getting the best price if you build a little bit of leverage in your communication of what your strong points as a company are when you reach out to them.
Perfect. We have a few more questions from the audience. Heather is asking, what have you seen as far as shipping costs from China? Are they still going down? What about in Q4, since giant retailers have cut back in inventory?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And yeah, for sure, like shipping costs, everyone saw like the massive spike and it started to come down and it spiked again. And basically the correlation of prices increasing on shipping are to do with local lockdowns in China. So there and also a lot more demand and then less supply, and the goods containers being stuck in America. I'm sure you've all seen the images at LA port of all the containers and vessels like queuing up to dock. So those empty containers are not going back to China. Therefore, they have less supply and more demand, so prices go up. But prices have started to stabilize and they have been gradually going down. So as long as we remain on track and don't have any more lockdowns and stuff like that, they should just gradually continue to come down. And they are actually relatively cheap at the moment. But going into Q4, COVID or no COVID, lockdown or no lockdown, Q4 is always an expensive time to ship products. One, because the demand in Q4 is so much larger, but also we're gearing towards Chinese New Year, which is always end of January, beginning of February. And we know the factories are going to be closed for a month. So everyone rushes to ship out in December and January, so that's where there's a big spike. So I would say between now and September would probably be your best prices in terms of like shipping, but anything could happen in the wider world, which would change that. But here's a sort of quick tactic, 2 quick tactics which you can really like bring down your shipping cost. Is one, I always ask my manufacturer to share the shipping cost increase with me. And I can only do this if it's a supplier that I've worked with for a few orders or done business with them for a few years. So I'm one of their favorite customers or a reliable customer. But I would say that, hey, the container price 2 years ago was $2,500. Now it's $12,500. It's gone up $10,000. Therefore, these products are no longer profitable for me, so I can no longer continue to order them. So now that you're going to lose a customer, you're going to lose the product, the manufacturer. So what I suggest is that let's split that increase, not the shipping cost. Let's just split the increase 50-50. So it was 2.5, now it's 12.5. The increase is 10. I'm going to contribute 5 to that. You contribute 5 to that, because for them, if they don't contribute anything to the rise in shipping costs, they're losing a customer. So doesn't work all the time that they're going to give you that 50%. They might contribute 25% or 35%, but that, hey, that's better than nothing. And then because they want to protect you as a customer. The other thing is that, like, let's say for example, every quarter you order 3,000 units. Every quarter, every year you order 12,000 units, right? So you might want to save costs by ordering 12,000 units up front, but the shipping cost is too high to ship 12,000 units, and the storage cost in your country is too high to store that amount for 1 year. So what I've been doing sometimes is that I manufacture the stock that I need for the full year, but I keep them in my supplier's warehouse and I just ship them out as and when I need it. So I say, hey, look, normally we order 3,000 units. This time I'm going to order 10,000 units. So we're going to get a better price to do with the higher quantity. But I'm only going to ship 2,000 units right now, and I need you to store those additional 8 in your factory, and we'll ship it out as and when I need it. And the cool thing is you don't actually need to pay for that 10,000 stock. You pay the 30% deposit on the 10,000 units, and then you pay the remaining balance as and when they ship it out. So you don't actually need to pay for it all up front as well. So it helps your cash flow, decreases your lead times because the stock is already there. It also decreases your product cost because they've bought all the materials all at once. So they've had economies of scale there. And let's say you're using polyester or aluminium, and the aluminium cost goes up in 6 months' time. You're not facing that cost increase because you've already bought that at the time when the price was cheaper. And then gradually, as the shipping costs come down, you're shipping later and later and later. So can you split the cost with your manufacturer, and can you order more quantity for the year, but the manufacturer holds the goods in stock for you?
All right, we have one more question from Daniela. If the manufacturing company doesn't have an export license, can we have the export documentation handled by the freight forwarder?
No, I would always get the manufacturer. The manufacturer should really be the exporter on record. The freight forwarder won't really want to get involved in any sort of liability with that product. So let's say, for example, the products are not fit for purpose, or has a harmful substance or harmful chemical, or they use the wrong HTS code or something like that, or they use the wrong language on the packaging. The freight forwarder doesn't want to have any liability, so they're not going to put their name forward on the documentation. But every factory, either if they don't have an export license, they work with a trading company which does. So I don't know what's the reason that the factory doesn't want to share their export license, but they normally have a partner company or a collaboration company, which is why sometimes you see on Alibaba, when you go to a factory profile and it says company, it will say manufacturer and trading company. And you're probably thinking, well, it's one or the other. Which one is it? Why would you be both? It's probably to do with they are a factory, but they don't have an export license. So they use a trading company who have an export license. So I would just go back to the manufacturer and just say, do you have a trading company that you work with that you can use their export license?
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for the detailed answers so far. So if you have been enjoying what Kian talks about and explains about, then definitely like this video as well. And if you're new to Orange Klik, then don't forget to subscribe to our Orange Klik YouTube channel as well. So I do have one question about product prices and negotiations. So what's your number one tip to negotiate better product prices when sourcing from China?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that when you negotiate the price, right, The most important thing is that you understand what the price is before you negotiate. So say, for example, if we have a $10 product, let's just say like an outdoor furniture chair, and we see it on Alibaba for $10 and we managed to negotiate it down to 8.9. You're like, great, I got $1.10 off my product. I did a good job in negotiating. But if that product was actually $7, then you're still overpaying. So the key to negotiation is understanding what is the product price first before we negotiate down. And the best way to do that is by creating what's called like a specification sheet or a tech pack or something like that. So you want to have basically a one-page or PDF. Like let's say it's an outdoor furniture chair. We want to say this chair is 80 by 40 by 40 centimeters. It's steel tubing on the legs. The thickness of the steel is this. The material is polyester with this type of waterproof coating. It comes in this carry bag. The carry bag dimensions are this. The Pantone color is this. The brand logo will be embroidered and it will be 3 by 3 centimeters. So they have all the information up front on one document, one PDF. And then we would do that Alibaba process that we just talked about, find the top 5 suppliers, we'll send that PDF to our favorite 5 suppliers, and we'll start to get the prices back. It will be $7.90, $8, $8.10. So we know that product is around about $8, and now we can start negotiating. But if we get a price of like $6, we know that price is too good to be true. So there's going to be some quality issues later on. And if we get a price of like $11, we know that supplier is just adding on way more margin and trying to rip us off. And we know that because we've done our research to find out what's the market price by giving all of our information up front. And it came from that specification sheet, and we can compare apples with apples. The other thing I would do as well is that we talked a little bit about this before, is like upsell your quantity. Meaning if I know I want to order 1,000 units, I'm going to say, hey, can you give me the price for 1,000 units, 5,000 units, and 10,000 units, right? And let's say the 1,000 units is $8, 5,000 units is $7.50, and 10,000 units is $6, right? I know I'm only going to do the 1,000, but I would say to the supplier, kind of like what we talked about before, this is a trial order. I want to work with you and your company for the long term. I want to work in partnership with your company. And those are 2 really key words, long-term and partnership, because suppliers do not like the customers which place one order 1 year and then you go to another supplier and another supplier. They want to maintain that supplier for as long as that customer for as long as they can, because they're not thinking like, how much money am I going to make from this order? They're thinking, how much money am I going to make from this customer over the next 3, 5, 10 years? So as long as you explain in your initial messaging that, hey, we're going to be working in partnership, we're going to be working in the long term together, that way you've now excited them that you're going to grow and build this business together. So what I would say is that, hey, I'm only going to order 1,000 units for the first order, but if you can give me the price that you've put there for 10,000 units, and I know that's possible now because 1,000 units is above the MOQ, so I know that they can hit that price if they really wanted to. If you can give me the price for 10,000 units, I'm going to pass that cost saving onto my customer, and I'm going to enter the market at the lowest possible price this product will be, and therefore I'm going to sell my units faster, and I'm going to place a larger order to you much quicker. So it's not like, hey, I want a lower price, I want to make more money. It's like, no, if you give me the lower price, you're going to get larger orders and more frequent orders because I'm going to give the best price to my customers, and we're going to start off this business relationship right. So it's very, you have to be very careful how you word these things. But I would say start with a spec sheet, do your research online, find your top 5 suppliers, find what is the market price, negotiate down from there, and then you can use that upsell by asking, what are the different pricing options for quantity to really know how low you can go, and then you're comfortable. And by the way, you don't always have to go with the supplier which gives you the cheapest price. You might have your favorite supplier to be like, all right, well, this supplier has got all the certifications, their communication was fantastic. They supply like, the customers that I also look up to, the brands that I look up to. But let's say that they were like $8.50, but you were also getting $8. I would go to them and say, hey, I want to work with you for the long term. I like this, this, and this about your company. However, your price is $8.50, and I've been getting $8 from other suppliers. So if you can match the price, I'm happy to place the order to you. And a quick little negotiation tactic I like to do is I actually like to make the purchase order with their company name on it and with the $8 price that I want on it, to be like, hey, if you agree, here's a purchase order. I'm going to give it to you right now. So they're like, okay, cool, the order's there, let's go. But that way you don't just go with the best price, you go with your favorite supplier and use the best price that you got as leverage to get that supplier down, if you know what I mean.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for sharing some of your ninja tactics, I would say. So Claudia has a question. So we have a Canadian company and they sell on Amazon in the US. We want to source wood products from China, but can't because we don't have a business presence in the US. Is there a way to get around this?
So you want to source wood products from China, but can't because you don't have a presence in the US. So I'm not sure I fully understand the question, because you could still order that wood product from China and sell it in the US, even though you have a Canadian company, unless the wood is just like one component of the product and you want to add that as part of another product that you're making in the US. I wasn't quite sure exactly what the full question was, unless it's that you know what it was.
So yeah, Claudia, if you want to add something to this question, then go ahead, type that in the chat, and we will come back to this question if you know what exactly is currently holding you back from sourcing this wood product. But meanwhile, a question. So should I ask the supplier for which other Amazon brands they already manufacture their products for?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I don't necessarily ask like which brands are you manufacturing for on Amazon, but I would definitely ask them, are you selling on Amazon or are you supplying any brands that sell on Amazon? And I've worked with suppliers which sell on Amazon. I've worked ones which have no idea what Amazon is, and there's pros and cons to either. It doesn't really make a difference to me in terms of whether I select to work with that factory or not. But it's very important for you to know if they do, because if that supplier sells on Amazon or supplies someone who does, it's a good thing, because you know that they're familiar with how to succeed on Amazon in terms of negative reviews are very damaging, out of stocks are very damaging. Like insert labels, all that sort of stuff are very important to definitely include it and stuff like that. But if they don't sell on Amazon, then they're also not your competition, which is great. But a lot of people ask, well, if they're also selling on Amazon, why should I buy from them? Because I don't want them to understand my product ideas and stuff like that. What if they copy me? And look, I talk to many suppliers which sell on Amazon, and what I can say is that they don't know how to sell on Amazon properly. And their number one focus, their number one bread and butter is getting orders for their factory. So for example, if you order 5,000 units, right, from a factory, and now you hold it in stock in an Amazon FBA warehouse, you don't know if you're going to sell that 5,000 in 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, whether you only sell 1,000 and you get stuck with 4,000 units. But the good thing about a factory is that when you place an order for 5,000 units, they make 5,000 units and they sell 5,000 units. So they sell 100% of what you order from them, right? That is the business that they're in, and that's the business that they like. So if you're selling on Amazon and so are they would rather sell to you than sell to Amazon, because when they sell on Amazon, if they ship 5,000 units and they only sell 500 or 1,000, they're now stuck and they don't know what to do with the stock, and it's in the US. So they much prefer selling to you rather than selling on Amazon. So don't feel like, oh, they're going to try and cut me out. But if they were to, for some reason, not supply you because they wanted to outrank you, that's only damaging them, because now you're not placing as large orders to them. So they're only hurting themselves. So it's good for you to understand, do you supply on Amazon or don't you? And then you know what they're capable of. And if they don't, then you know what to explain to them in terms of how damaging out of stocks are and returns are and stuff like that. But just important for you to know.
Okay, very good. So a question about visiting the factory. So when and if should I visit my factory in person?
I would say as soon as you can. I mean, like, assuming that your factory is in China and you can't get out there at the moment, but I would say for doing this for 12 years, the number one thing you can do for your business in terms of supply chain is going to visit your factory in person. And that's really to build your relationship with the factory, to know what their capabilities are, to go in and see, like, you know, what other brands they manufacture for. And because factories normally do a really bad job of explaining themselves and explaining how good they are and selling themselves and stuff like that. But when you go into a factory and you're like, oh, you supply the North Face, or you supply like Patagonia, you supply like all these outdoor brands, you're doing really technical products. I didn't know you guys were capable of this. Oh, this is cool. And then you can start to develop products there and then. And the suppliers really take seriously the customers who visit China, because you don't necessarily go to China on a holiday, right? You go to China to do business. So if you're going all the way to their place of work, it's showing that you're very, very serious about this business, and they respect that. And then building those relationships in terms of like going out for dinner with each other, getting drunk together. Like, they really value that, and then they appreciate that in the long term, and then as a result give you way more benefits in your business relationship, such as giving you better credit terms, offering you new products, like, hey, we've been working on this product, it's new, do you want to order it? They kind of show it to you before you find out about it in the market, if you know what I mean. So there's many benefits of visiting your factory in person and understanding what their capabilities are. So as soon as China opens up, I would highly recommend going out as soon as you can.
China for now is just closing down more and more. Yeah, let's see. Patrick wants to know, besides the Canton Fair, are you starting to see more regional and industry-specific trade shows coming back?
Yeah, for sure. And I was just at one last week. I was in Munich, Germany for an outdoor. So like, my family business is a company called Highlander, and we do like camping and outdoor products. So backpacks, tents, sleeping bags, outdoor furniture. And the main outdoor show is in Munich in Germany. And all the big brands like, Jack Wolfskin, Deuter, Vaudi, Haglofs, North Face, they're all there. And normally they have the big brands there, the retailers there, the wholesalers are there, and the suppliers come from China as well. There was normally a full hall of suppliers. This time there's only 5 suppliers, so the suppliers weren't there. But those shows are really good for you to get a bird's eye view of like what's happening in your industry and in your market. Like, what are the packaging trends? What are the eco-friendly, sustainable materials that are coming out? What are the colors that are in season for next year? What are the new products that the brands have developed? Because in trade shows, they typically show the products that they're bringing out next year, so the retailers will place order right now, so they know how many to manufacture. So I always use those trade shows to go and see, well, what's coming out next year, and can I make it faster than when they bring it out, so I can be first to market. So trade shows are a fantastic resource. Whatever category of product that you're in, there's definitely going to be a trade show for that somewhere in Europe or the US or wherever you're based. And the final thing is that if you can't make it out to that trade show for whatever reason, go on the website of that trade show. They normally list the exhibitors, and you can look at the exhibitor list and see, like, are there any brands that you recognize or suppliers that you like to work with? You get their company name and just contact them directly as well. But I highly recommend going there in person.
Yeah, thanks. And Nature's Petrolief wants to know, what's wrong with the selling products on eBay as opposed to Amazon? Well, it's a little bit out of your competence, probably, but you can.
I was about to ask you, Augustus. I would say there's nothing wrong with selling on eBay or Amazon, whatever tailored to your preferences are. I think the mass volume and scale is on Amazon, but there's nothing wrong. A lot of people sell products on eBay as well.
Yeah. All right. So we have a question from Claudia. So I will remind that she was asking, as a Canadian company, she says she cannot import wood from China to US, and she has a clarification that USDA says that you have to be an American company if you want to import wood into US from China. But they, as a Canadian company, they can import from Vietnam and India. So the question initial was, do you have any ideas how they can get around?
So first of all, I would put that question back to your manufacturer, because for sure the manufacturer has sold products into the US. So I would ask them, we're having issues, just as you mentioned, that we can buy from India and Vietnam, but we can't get it from China. What do you do to get around this for your other customers? And then on top of that, I would also find out what is the certification required to import wood products. And I know it's like FSC is a type of certificate that you need for wood products. But you could do a little bit more research and see what are the certifications required. And it could be that you get those certifications in your brand name rather than the factory's name, and then you might be able to import it. The other thing is that you can ask your freight forwarder, because remember, your freight forwarder is always clearing goods through customs every day on their client's behalf. So I would say to my freight forwarder, hey, I want to import these wooden products from China into the US. I'm having this issue with the USDA or with customs. How do I get around this? And for sure they would have imported wood products from China into the US before, and they'll say, oh, well, you need to put this on your documentation, or you need this certificate, or let's send it into this country in a free trade zone first, and then we'll send it directly into the US. So your freight forwarder will be able to answer that question for you as well.
Mm-hmm. So the freight forwarder and maybe the factory itself, maybe. All right, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much, Kian, for all of these detailed answers to the questions. I'm sure the viewers were able to get a tip or two from how to source better from China. So let's give an overview of the VIP package again to introduce what we have there.
Yeah, so every speaker which is speaking at SellerFest Online, including Kian, has prepared additional VIP video. We call it VIP, but it's just additional video which is locked. You cannot see it in public. And you can find the link below to this VIP package. You can read what's included. So if you purchase, you get additional 25 videos, which are more like a workshop. Like, for example, Kian is offering PDFs, actionable PDFs. Different people are like offering something advanced techniques for Amazon PPC, some strategies for visual references if you want to improve your images on your listing, and so on. So please check the link below. And yeah, thanks a lot again, Kian, for all your knowledge. How people can get help from you? Like, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, for sure, thanks. So just I've got a YouTube channel, Sourcing with Kian, Facebook group of the same name. I've also recently developed a sourcing platform and a sourcing agency called titansourcing.com. So if you need any products you want priced up, or if you want better prices or better quality, you can head to titansourcing.com. Or if you want just more information and videos about sourcing, Sourcing with Kian on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, perfect. And we see happy faces. Daniela says, thank you for the answer. Nekati as well. Claudia also is happy with the answer. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it as always, and look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Take care and all the best.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye. Bye. And now I would like to recommend you to watch other video with Kian, which Lisette recorded in the past. And here Kian explains how you can find the best products to source on Alibaba platform.